Guys, we are trapped here in this studio. There is no way out. We bought it. We can't return it, even though we've been offered a fair price. But we are going to take the time to break down everything in Chapter 2 of American Horror Story Roanoke. So stay tuned right now on American Horror Story Dissected. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Albin, managing editor for TVGuide.com, joined as always by Sadie Guinness, also of TVGuide.com. Huge coincidence, not related. But we're going to talk about the second episode of American Horror Story Roanoke. Real quick, what'd you think?
I thought it was a fine episode. I kind of wanted more. I wanted to understand why we're in this fake documentary. I wanted, like, more ridiculous craziness. It was just okay for me.
Yeah, all right. Well, we got to get into all the big spoilers, so let's put up that spoiler alert right there. Thank you very much, our fine producers. So if you haven't watched the episode, please turn away, don't watch, or watch and get spoiled either way. But let's get into one of the big crazy twists from the episode, murder nurses. There's a bunch of murder nurses. Murder nurses. Tell everybody what happened there, Sadie.
So we saw these nurses briefly last episode. They sort of were creeping around then, didn't know what they were doing, and now we know they're two sisters who like to murder old people so that the deceased first letter of their first names spell out their favorite word, murder.
Yeah, whose favorite word is murder? Who's like, I love that word, that's a great word.
It's, like, I can't with this. Like, the Murda house, like, I get it. It's, like, mirroring Murder House, which also had a bunch of dead nurses running around. I don't believe them as people. Like, they weren't scary enough to me. They were comical.
Well, we're still in the recreation part, right? There's a lot of shooting happening behind us, by the way. But we're still in the recreation part, so it's a little difficult to tell what actually is heightened on purpose versus actually happening.
And, like, what's supposed to be cheesy versus what's supposed to be scary. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel when I'm watching this.
And that's exactly what Ryan Murphy wants out of you guys. But the big question coming out of this is there's an R left over. They spelled bird, which I found out is a small town in West India last night, which is a very exciting fact. But there's still an R that they need to kill. I feel like that's a dangling plot point. Who is that R? Who are they going to kill?
I automatically started thinking of, like, old horror story characters, like who could come back and die. And the only one with an R I could think of was Ramona Royale. She's already, like, a vampire. I don't think she's coming back. Like, an Angela Bassett vampire hanging out with an Angela Bassett reenactment actor is too much for me. So I think it's either going to be someone we haven't met yet, or there's going to be, like, a reveal that, like, Lee's real name is, like, Rhonda Lee, or something like that.
This is getting super nerdy, but what I love is if they do the sequence for The Dark Knight Rises where somebody turns to Angela Bassett and is like, you should really use your middle name, Robin.
Yes.
There you go. That would be perfect. Real quick, before we move on, let's talk about Elias Cunningham, Dennis O'Hare's character. What's going on with his surprisingly well-produced Crazy Man video that's happening behind us right now?
I don't even know. I don't know if we're supposed to believe him and think this story is real. There's something fishy about it. I don't trust any information that is fed to people so conveniently, and then they're just like, oh, this must be the whole story. I think there's a twist with him coming. I'm just not quite sure what it is.
Yeah, he's Piggy Man. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about one of the other big things in the episode. We met Lee's little daughter, Flora, who's very cute.
Kind of creepy.
Kind of creepy, like kids always are in horror movies. And she befriends a terrible ghost named Priscilla. What do you think? What is Priscilla? What's going on with Priscilla and Flora, and where are we left?
Based on the fact that Priscilla loves bonnets, I'm going to go with she's a child of one of the Roanoke colonists. She was the little girl sort of haunting them in the yard.
Yeah, here we're getting a shot of her right now. She's right out there. We think that's Priscilla, right?
Yeah,
it's not explicitly said, but...
I'm pretty sure that's her. And, you know, it's nice. I think Priscilla seems pretty good. Like, she's willing to trade all of their lives for a doll. Like, that's a really nice ghost. If Lee hadn't messed it up, they'd all be fine.
Yeah. Also, we got to talk about, we just showed this off. Somebody, Priscilla presumably, put Flora's jacket 300 feet in the air on a tree. How do you even do that, and how did they notice that?
Ghosts have no corporeal forms. They can fly.
Oh,
Duh.
right, that's right. Okay, I'm really sorry, Sadie. I apologize. Well, we'll have to stay tuned to find out more about that, but I can't not talk about this. There were so many pigs in this episode. Like, it was nonstop, wall to wall, complete pigs. From, we kicked it off, there was the whole sacrifice. We found out kind of what the Piggy Man is, right?
Yeah, well, at least this Piggy Man. Because we see in last episode, Dennis O'Hara's character saw Piggy Man in the woods that he had been tracking, whereas now we see Piggy Man is like a ritual sacrifice.
Right, and then later on, I mean, it's kind of related. We saw this altar being set up that was being burned out in the yard, also made of entrails and pigs.
I believe it was that man's entrails.
Oh, yeah? You think it was the same guy?
That's how I interpreted
Okay.
it. They spit roasted that dude, and then they strung up his entrails and posted his pig head on top of the form.
But then there's a pig in the woods. There's pigtails on the walls as well, and there's secret pigtails on the tree. There's pigtails all over the place. Where are they getting all these pigs? Is there a pig farm? That is so creepy, that thing.
I don't know where they're getting the pigs, but pigs are often a symbol of fertility. And so we know that Shelby had a miscarriage right before coming here. So I think Sarah Paulson is gonna get knocked up again. Whether it's with a demon pig baby or a human, I don't know, but I definitely think we should expect a pregnancy.
Yeah, well, at the very least, as we talked about last episode, Piggy Man is the breakout character of the series. If you don't like anything else, vote Piggy Man, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Piggy Man 2016.
All right, let's move on with our next section, Connect the Dots, where we talk about all of the connections, all of the secret Easter eggs that you might not have noticed in the episode, or maybe you did. We talked about this a little bit, but let's talk about the dead nurses, because this is something that connects pretty heavily to the first season of American Horror Story, right?
Murder House, not to be confused with Murder House. So in season 1, we had the R. Franklin murders. The murder house was actually a dormitory, I believe, where nursing students lived, and this crazy man came and killed Gladys and her friend, who were both nursing students, and then they came back as ghosts and like helped out the Harmons. And now we're once again seeing 2 women in like old-timey nurses' uniforms. Like, do they have no other professions? Like, what's going on? I feel like these parallels are there for a reason.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of theorizing, and we'll talk more about this when we get back to Piggy Man, as everything always connects back to Piggy Man in a second, but it almost feels like a remake of the first season in a way so far, right?
Oh, definitely. Like, there are so many parallels. There's the miscarriage, there's the family, there's like the creepy girl who's hanging out with a ghost. Priscilla is not, you know, as cool as Tate Langdon,
Sure,
but,
yeah.
you know.
What would be amazing, I'm just going to throw this out here, Evan Peters is Priscilla.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
like,
that
I
would
would
be-
not put anything past Ryan Murphy at this point, and if it gets Evan Peters back on our screens, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about somebody who is back on our screens. This was teased in the promo for the second episode, and we finally got to see it. Lady Gaga sort of is back. There we go. She's playing a creepy lady in the woods. Oh, she's here in the studio right now. This is very exciting. You had a theory last episode about who she's playing. Talk about that, and do you think this episode backed it up?
I think she's playing some sort of spirit, goddess, creature connected to the earth. She's someone that maybe the colonists worship, and I think that is totally backed up here. They're doing a big sacrifice, probably to appease Gaga.
You think Gaga is in charge of everything? Gaga is running
They're
Kathy
doing
Bates
it
and
all
Piggy Man
for
and-
her. Yeah.
I mean, they are little monsters, so there you go. All right, let's talk about Piggy Man. As I mentioned, this is another thing that connects right back to the first season, episode 6, I think, right? Can you talk people
Yes.
through that?
The episode, I believe, was actually called Piggy Man, and it was a serial
Piggy.
Piggy about a serial killer named Piggy Man who would wear a pig mask when he killed people. And then there was an urban legend where if he said Piggy in the mirror, he would show up. And we actually saw Piggy Man in the mirror this time. So maybe the season 1 character, Piggy Man, got his sort of murderous identity from this actual ghost monster.
You think? Or do you think it's the same Piggy Man from the story showing up in the mirror, dancing in the mirror?
I don't think so, because in season 1, it really seemed like Piggy Man was a human ghost. And this seems to be more of a weird creature?
Sure, it could be. I don't know. Well, we're definitely going to find out more, or maybe not, because the show is crazy pants as we go on. And now it's time for our next section, my favorite section, because you guys make it up. It's your Q and A, where we go to your questions. So if you got them, send them in, facebook.com/TV Guide, or you can send them in #TVG Live on Twitter, or just hit us up on Twitter @TV Guide. We have a bunch of them, so let's get to them now. So first one, Jose on Twitter asks, what do you think the big twist of the season is going to be? Now, there's actually some breaking news about that, right?
Ryan Murphy just gave an interview where he said that come episode 6, everything we thought we knew is going to be turned on its head, and there's like a big game-changing twist. So I got tons of ideas.
All right, well, what's your number one theory, Sadie?
I think the show's about to go like full-on Rashomon. I think right now we're getting this story from the perspective of Shelby, Lee, and Matt, and I think we're going to sort of get the script flipped and see the same story told from other people's perspectives, and maybe learn that not everything played out exactly as they said.
Okay. I think that's interesting. You were also talking about kind of a Scream 3 sort of twist, right?
I do think it's possible that we're going to see all of these like ghosts and horrible events sort of break the fourth wall and affect the actors and Shelby, Lee, and Matt in real life while they're filming. But I feel like with the trailers, the storylines we've seen already, with them trying to get people to believe their stories, and really the cops and no one buys it, I think there's a whole theme right now of like an unreliable narrator this season. And so I think the perspectives, or something's going to happen that's going to take everything we thought we knew and really undercut it and subvert it.
Right. Something we've talked about a little bit is you're not worried about Lee. You're not worried about any of the other characters that are doing the narration.
Yeah, because we know they're alive.
So something
unless
has to
they're
change.
ghosts. They're
Oh my
ghosts
God.
doing interviews.
I'll tell you what, I don't watch any of those celebrity ghost story shows, but I totally would if it was ghost celebrity stories. I'm just throwing it out there. All right, let's go to another question from you guys. This is, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but everybody wants to know this. Nina on Facebook, Kat, Carolyn, and Jordan, all on Twitter want to know, where is Evan Peters?
I think he has to show up in the next 2 episodes or people are going to start rioting. I don't think he's a colonist. I don't know why, just because I feel like we'd have seen him by now, but I don't
Well,
know.
the big theory that I've read, at least, is that he is Piggy Man, or at least the Piggy Man who is in the woods on Elias Cunningham's videotape.
That would fall in line with the Murder House parallels, since Tate was revealed to be Rubber Man, and so I would totally buy that theory. And if like we see Piggy Man all like shirtless, taking off his decapitated pig's head, and it's like Evan Peters, like beautiful like blonde locks, I would be into it.
Yeah, except for the fact that this is the most ridiculous piece of evidence to me. Evan Peters had to dye his hair red for this season.
Because it's stained with blood, pig's blood.
Oh, okay, there we go. That solves it. There we go. Thanks. Solves you guys. Wes on Twitter says, why isn't there a title sequence? Now, you've watched more seasons than I have. Is this something fans expect, and why didn't you think it's here?
I think it might have something to do with the twist coming up. We have the title now, but it's not part of the show, and so maybe the entire premise is going to change 6 episodes in. They could scrap Roanoke halfway through this season. I have no idea.
I mean, I think at the very least it's interesting that they call the show American Horror Story Roanoke, but in the show it's called My Roanoke Nightmare. So if anything, the Roanoke thing seems like a capsule for a couple of things. And they did talk about in that same interview that they look at the season as, I think it was 1 through 5 is one story, and then 6 through 9 is another story, and then 10 is an entirely different story. So we'll see what happens. Maybe you're right about the Rashomon idea. Matt on Facebook, Lee's daughter said they're going to kill us all and save me for last, and yet Lee still kidnapped her daughter and brought her back to the creepy house. Why, Sadie? Why?
She's drunk.
Great answer. More than one person on Twitter wants to know, why was Flora eating apples with apple juice? I can take that one as a parent. Kids are terrible, and they won't eat anything, and sometimes all they'll have is apples and apple juice, and that's it, and it's the worst.
I will say apples are also a symbol of temptation, and so maybe Flora's sort of like leading this family on a dark path because they're going to run after her into the woods, and bad things are going to happen.
I'm going to stick with my kids are terrible theory. All right, we got time for one more question from you guys. Brittany on Twitter asks, where is Flora? That's a very good question because there's a couple of different places in the show right now where she could be. Do you have any ideas?
I think she's playing with Priscilla. I think she's fine, just like playing with a hoop and a stick, wearing bonnets together. They seem close, you know. Priscilla's gonna save her for last. Like they like each other. They're hanging.
Yeah, I think we talked about this again a little bit last episode, but something's going on with the ground shaking near the Roanoke settlers, if that's who actually they are. I think whatever that is, there's portal to another dimension or ghost
Like
dimension.
the Upside Down.
Yeah, like the Upside Down. This is Stranger Things. We're doing a
Yeah,
Stranger
but
Things
instead
show.
of Upside Down, it's the underground. And they
there you
just
go.
like dig a hole and they're there.
Perfect. I would love that. Guys, I think we're digging a hole, so we're going to stop this episode right here. Thank you so much, Sadie. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll be back next week with more American Horror Story Dissected.